It's Monday, August 26th, 2013. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, online gambling.
Let's do this.
So I got a little bit of a conundrum.
Okay.
I got a Sprint cell phone. You know, 4G, works pretty great. Unlimited data with the old grandfathered Sprint plans that are awesome.
I'm pretty sure they still have unlimited data.
They may or may not, I don't know. Mine's just super cheap. But my trouble is, it's not LTE 4G, it's WiMAX 4G. And WiMAX is slowly disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't have a lot of options here because all modern cell phones that are on iPhone suck. And I do own a Nexus 4, which is a great phone. It's pentaband, GSM, just with SIM cards for travel. Like, I use it for work.
It's gigantic.
It's huge, but it's also not 4G. Now, Conrad...
I thought I was a Nexus 4, not 4G.
It's not 4G. That's why it's
Google
cheap.
Nexus 4.
It's not 4G, Scott.
What?
A lot of smartphones are not 4G, you realize. Even ones that are coming out now.
That's That's ridiculous.
Because people don't care about it. Only super nerds care about it, and the Nexus 4 is super cheap. Now, there is the fact that it does have the chips in it to do 4G, but it does not supposedly have the antenna required to do it fully. Our friend Connors Terad did one of the hacks, radio fuckery, to enable it, and it seems to work
really
fine.
isn't 4G. That's crazy that the top of the line Android
can't believe
phone,
you didn't know that.
The top of the line Android phone.
4G does not exist in most places, Scott. It is not a concern for most people.
What about the Galaxy Express 4? Isn't it the same damn thing?
The Galaxy Express
Yeah.
4?
Isn't that almost the same phone?
Well, I heard the 3.9 was really fast. It only has 4G capabilities, possibly because they use a generic chip that has the 4G stuff in it, doesn't have the right antenna. There's tons of ways to enable that radio if you fuck around.
But it doesn't have the right antenna?
But it works fine, according to Conrad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm waiting for him to let me know the fullness, because it works fine. He enabled 4G, as many people on the internet have, but I've read numerous reports that its signal strength is not that great, and as a result, it ends up using more battery.
Well, it's going to do that anyway.
But more battery than it should. So I'm waiting to see if there's any confirmations
Is there
of the
some sort of
pros and
case you
cons of
could
doing
put on
this.
it that would be an antenna?
Maybe too, but I have not found any hobbyists that did anything like that.
You have tons of money, Vice President. Why don't you just go get a Samsung Galaxy S, whatever, that has 4G?
Because then I'll own 3 perfectly good smartphones.
Sell the other ones.
They're not worth that much.
They're worth more than 0.
The reason I have the Nexus 4 is because it's pentaband and it works overseas great. Like in Australia, it was stupidly fast, despite not being 4G because I had the HSPA plus whatever. But my conundrum is not really phone, because the 4G thing doesn't matter that much. 3G is also stupid fast for what I use a phone for. My problem is, if I want to have just one device, I can either go with AT&T, which I figured would be expensive.
It's way more expensive.
It's ridiculously expensive. I'd be looking at $90 before tax and fees and whatever minimum.
That's what I'm paying.
Yeah. Or I could go T-Mobile, and that's great, except it won't fucking work at conventions if experience is any indicator.
I don't know. I haven't seen people. I mean, people sort of get the idea that T-Mobile is smaller network, whatever. But
No,
I
that's
know
not-
people using it and they're not having any
I
problems.
do too, and that's not the impression I get. The impression I get is that its coverage is fine, but at events like conventions where there's tons of people, everyone
Who have
I've-
you met at a convention who had T-Mobile was having a problem?
bunch of our listeners, they'll always be hanging around like by Pony Ops, and they'll be like, man, I can't get any signal, and I'm sitting here with my non-T-Mobile with 4 bars of full data.
I've never seen that.
I run into that frequently.
I don't think you'll have a problem.
I think you just don't pay attention to people who are around you saying things.
I don't think listen, it's not a problem.
Basically, I
you're
just
not
got-
going to the middle of nowhere.
That's not what the complaint ever was. The complaint that I see...
None of the networks really always work when there's a ton of people around.
Oh yeah, but in my experience, every time some listener has been
So
hanging
you're
around
just going to
us,
make a decision based on random anecdotal evidence.
I haven't made a decision yet. I'm saying that is the anecdotal evidence I have, that people with T-Mobile seem to have more problems at the conventions I am at, where I simultaneously do not have problems.
I've seen most people having problems at conventions who do not have T-Mobile because there's more people on those other networks and there's less people on T-Mobile. So there's less clogging them up on those frequencies.
But T-Mobile might not have as much coverage in these areas.
They have coverage in every major populated place. They only don't have coverage in the sticks.
Coverage and as much coverage are not the same thing.
They have plenty.
Uh-huh.
My coworkers have T-Mobile. They basically have no problems. They don't have the voice plan. They're just using data and Google Voice, and they have no issues whatsoever. They're getting, whatever. They're getting like the full signal pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, but the biggest problem is if I drop Sprint to go with T-Mobile or AT&T, I lose my direct Google Voice integration.
Wah, wah.
Because that was great and existed and basically is not offered and does not exist anymore. So if I ever leave my current plan, that's gone forever. And I got to tell you, it's pretty great to have my actual phone number ring all my phones at the same time and my computers and have spam filtering for phone calls and have transcription of all my voicemails in Google.
Mm-hmm.
If I give that up, then I got to start giving people my Google Voice number, which has the delay, or my main number, which will use T-Mobile's or AT&T's voicemail.
I would just go get a 4G Android phone.
That doesn't solve my problem of Google Voice Direct.
And use it with your Sprint.
The point is that if I buy a new phone, I want one phone that I use everywhere.
Right. So you get a Sprint phone.
I can't use a Sprint phone, a CDMA phone.
Yeah, you can get a world phone from Sprint.
Yeah, Sprint's world phones suck fucking ass.
Let's see what they have. They have the HTC One.
Yep.
Samsung Galaxy S 3 and 4.
Yep.
And iPhones. I guess you can get the HTC Evo. You don't want that one.
Yeah.
All right, so you can get the HTC One or the Galaxy S4.
Yeah, so those are unlocked out of the box and 4G and work on GSM and CDMA.
I'm sure they do.
Anyway, I got to decide what to do because my old Nexus S starting to have a few issues.
Mm-hmm.
Battery's not lasting that long anymore, and buying a new battery costs enough to where I wouldn't even bother. I just get a new phone. And it's actually starting to be super slow now that Google updated its Hangouts.
Okay.
You have a shitty iPhone, so you don't have any opinion on this.
You mean I have no problems?
You mean your
because I have a
iPhone that
great
doesn't work
iPhone?
with Google Glass?
That's not iPhone's fault. There's nothing wrong with the iPhone.
But the fact remains.
The beta Google Glass does not do everything. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
They're
but it
working
doesn't
on
do the most basic thing, the GPS thing, the primary
The Google Glass
thing.
doesn't even work with the Google apps, even though they just said that they're working on it.
Yeah.
All right? Yeah, the beta thing.
But I wonder when you'll get GPS, because that's kind of a killer app for that thing.
Probably after iOS 7 comes out and fixes its Bluetooth.
Maybe. Anyway, you got any news?
Almost definitely. I do have a news. Something that nerds have been waiting for a long time finally happened. Stevie B, and not the one you're thinking of, the tech one, not the anime cell-drawn one, has said that within 12 months he's going to retire pretty much as soon as they find someone to replace him. So, of course, the whole true story never really comes out in any sort of confirmed
Well, let's see. What
way.
has Microsoft done recently? The Windows Phone kind of didn't go anywhere. The Windows 8 wildly hated, as opposed to Windows 7,
supposedly
which was
the
widely
straw
loved.
that broke the camel's back, so they say, is the $900 million write-off for the failed Windows RT tablets. Even though the Surface Pro is good, the Surface RT went, right? And they're trying to sell off the Surface RTs at low prices to schools and stuff just to get rid of them.
Yep.
And to get some amount of money back. Because no one wants your shitty tablet that really sucks and doesn't do anything. We like the one that actually runs Windows and is for reals.
That's what I run into a lot with tablets in general. That, for example, Emily's tablet, right? It's an actual laptop. It's just a tablet form factor.
Yep.
It's a full-on computer. And a lot of apps try to be like, oh, I see you're running a tablet. Let me give you my bullshit tablet version of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, but it's well, I would like that if your bullshit tablet version was actually fucking good.
Or if I'm actually on a shitty tablet.
Yeah, but I'm not. I'm on a for reals tablet.
And I think tablet-level shit OSs really don't need to exist in the long run. Tablet will just be a form factor for a computer.
Well, but look, the iPad, right? It's no one's complaining. The iPad is basically the same thing as the Surface RT. It's a limited tablet. The thing is, an iPad app on the iPad is not some shitty version you don't want. It's actually good.
I think it's more subtle than that. The iPad, if you're going to use an iPad, the limited device, Apple kind of wins in the limited interface arena right now. If you want an interface that's simple and mostly just works, Apple's pretty much got it down.
Well, it's really just with the Surface RT, if you get these apps trying to run in like a tablet mode, but they're actually full apps and they're trying to make their user, and it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like you have to, it has to be it's so different, right? It's not like some, a simple website. Notice only the really simple websites can be, responsive. Any website that actually has a lot going on can't really do that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. If you have an app like Photoshop and you try to make a tablet, interface for it, it's like, right? That's why they have Photoshop Touch, which is, completely different. I have it on my iPhone. It's actually pretty good. Anyway.
In general, people seem very happy about him leaving, and it seems like the markets are also very happy.
Well, everyone, he basically, right? People don't know the history necessarily. They might know developers, right? But basically, when Microsoft started, it was Bill Gates, and then shortly after, right, one of the earliest people they brought on was Steve Ballmer, and he was the sales guy. He wasn't a tech guy. He was the sales guy. You can even go on YouTube and see videos of like him in commercials trying to sell Windows in like the 80s or the 90s. And it's like that's what he did. He was a salesman, and he was in second in command after Bill Gates, the tech guy. And then Bill Gates retired. He came up and was the number one guy. So he went from number one guy being a tech guy.
He also apparently has the Legion of Honor for real.
Yeah. So he went from being number one guy being the tech guy to number one guy being the sales guy, and he did what sales guy does. Right? He didn't do what tech guy would do, and even though he did some good things, the net effect was not so good. And some of it was his fault, and some of it wasn't his fault. But,
Well, part of your job...
It is how it is.
Part of your job as a CEO is basically to where you make it all your fault.
Yep.
So you're kind of the escape hatch for the company's going in a bad direction. Even if you weren't the one actually making it go in that direction, your job is to step down to sort of tell the world, yes, we're changing direction, even if you had nothing to do with it in the first place.
Well, I think, it's like he was there for a long-ass time, first of all, right? Another thing is that they recently had a reorganization, which sort of fixed some of their problems, right? But someone wrote an article, and it was like, Ballmer looked around the room after the reorg and realized he was the only old fogey left, and was like, oh, well then...
Well, we'll see what happens, because regardless of the personal stuff with Ballmer, it signals that Microsoft is trying to change some direction towards something different.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know exactly what. I'll bet they're going to back off of the Windows 8 direction they've been going.
Probably.
I'll bet they're going to back off on tablets, and I bet they're going to try to do something different.
I don't know.
I can't really guess what they'll
it's not.
do, though.
I mean, I tried to think like, man, if I was like CEO of Sony, I could do so much awesome shit. But if I was CEO of Microsoft, it's like, what could I do that would be an obvious move that would make a ton of money? All right, so make Windows like $20 or $10.
I would go after making Windows be what it's good at, as in being the desktop operating system for every company in the world.
Obviously. Well, yeah, but I'm talking about you can't just become the business only, right?
Oh, no, but that's the first thing I do, because right now, there's still the problem of old companies remain using Windows XP to this day for various reasons. We've talked about that
definitely.
problem
Yeah,
before.
you got to get them all to upgrade.
Yeah,
from
I would
that
do
shit.
something to get them to upgrade.
Definitely. But the thing is, you have to keep that business market going, and you have to, keep working at it to make even more money on it, but you can't abandon the consumer business.
Well, yeah, we know what happens if you do that. BlackBerry.
IBM,
BlackBerry.
Right. So, it's like, what could I do at Microsoft to get the consumer business back, right? Well, I would make, we do the obvious thing where Xbox games just run on the PC and vice versa.
That's stealing from Peter to pay Paul.
That's not a problem.
It is for Microsoft. As soon as you're cannibalizing part of sales from one side to go after another side.
The Xbox is such a tiny percent. Those graphs showing like the amount of revenue for Microsoft. The Xbox doesn't even chart, right? Compared to the other things Microsoft makes money from. So it doesn't even matter, right?
But you
need to increase the pie. It doesn't matter which one, if you sell more Windowses or if you sell more Xboxes.
But simultaneously, they just killed Windows games. In a general sense, games for Windows Live.
Yeah.
They haven't replaced it with anything.
Well, you got to get Xbox One, the actual real Xbox Live. You have to get on the PC.
Yep.
Right? Maybe you could, partner with Valve instead of competing with them? I don't know.
That is, I believe there are Geeknights episodes from years ago where I said that the real way to win is for Microsoft and Valve to team the fuck up and just have PC gaming and console gaming locked.
Yep. And sure, there's something they could do if they actually teamed up and, even if they were like, Valve, look, we'll do whatever's beneficial to make your shit whatever you want, as long as, the only benefit we're going to get from it is the fact that tons of people are going to want to install the newest Windows or whatever, for $10, $20, whatever, Office for normal people, $20, business, $1,000, right?
Yep.
Microsoft SQL Server, you're just some guy in your house, free. You're a company, $1 million. Right? Same one. None of these different versions of shit with this Express and this, Visual Studio. Oh, you're just some kid? Free. The whole thing for reals. Oh, you're a company? $1 million. Right? That's what I would do.
Unity does something similar with their licensing. Below a certain level, you basically don't have to pay.
Yep. But Microsoft does it with like all this, this DRM and like, oh, you get Visual Studio Express for free. And it's like, wah, wah, does not compute.
It works okay. I use it.
Yeah, but it's not. If you want to do something for reals, it's missing like the one bit you really need. I'd be like, well, you get the one bit. And then if companies try to, use the Express one, it's like, well, we'll fucking know, right? And then we'll get you. Anyway,
so I got a really brief news here.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chromecast, according to...
That's that thing, the USB, the HDMI thing you plug into your TV?
Yeah.
It's sort of like an Apple TV for Android, Chrome, whatever.
You know what it is? It's one more failed monument to the never-ending stream of people who try to make the set-top box.
Google TV?
Yep.
What happened to that shit?
Apple TV? It's multiple iterations. I still don't know anyone who uses Apple TV.
I just know a few people who use it, but basically they're people who are like all in on Apple. Like anyone who buys TV and movies on iTunes and stuff is using Apple TV.
Yeah.
Because then what you can do is you sit there with your iPad, you tap on a movie, and it plays on your TV.
Now, that is a killer app, having the
if you're all in on Apple.
Yeah, the multi-device integration of your phone, computer, TV, refrigerator, vibrator, all interact with each other live all the time.
Yep.
And you just pass things back and forth. But, so, Google breaks Chromecast's ability to play local content was the headline.
Uh-huh.
The real headline should be... Journalists don't know how private unpublished APIs work. So there is an unpublished non-production API that is being changed. It's not to be used for production apps for Google Chromecast yet. And people have made devices, or not really devices, they made software that will stream your local content to Chromecast. Because everyone has their little NAS.
The same way that people hack the Apple TV.
Everyone has a NAS with like 100 terabytes of whatever anime they care about or whatever movies they pirated, their entire music collection from when they were in high school, whatever. But that broke again. And that was the news. Like, oh my God, this local streaming thing was broken because Google's trying to lock out local content. Yeah. I'm going to quote the TOS. Warning. The Google Cast SDK is a preview SDK intended for development and testing purposes only, not for production apps. Google may change this SDK significantly prior to the official release of Google Cast SDK.
Yeah, the reason you're a tech journalist and not a technologist is because you don't know that much. It's the same problem we see in a lot of journalism of specialized areas of interest, especially games journalism, is that, there's a lot of games journalists out there who are good, but most aren't. And most of them, even the ones I say aren't good in general, they're good at writing. I think most games journalists, most people who their job is games journalism, they're great. They're way better at writing than me because that's what they do. And I read what they write, and I'm like, wow, they're not bad at writing. But they just don't have the knowledge of games. And the same thing in the tech industry. John C. Dvorak is a tech journalist. Why? Because he can't program his way out of a paper bag. I mean, he knows more about technology than, say, some normal people, right, on this, whatever. But he doesn't know enough to actually have a job as a programmer or someone making hardware or someone making devices or, anything like that. That's why he's writing about it. He knows enough, and he knows enough about writing that he can write about the technology. And other tech journalists are the same way.
Yep.
And same as with this person. They don't understand technology enough, right? So, but they know more than the average person, so they can write technology articles for normal people, but then any actual tech people, if they look at it, will say, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Now, in this case, the developer of CyanogenMod
Yep.
keeps saying that Google is intentionally breaking his apps.
Well, that guy's just a crazy nut.
Let's see. Heads up, Google's latest Chromecast update intentionally, in italics, breaks all cast. They disabled video_playback support from the Chromecast application. Given this is the second time they've purposely removed disabled the ability to play media from external sources, confirms my suspicions that blah, 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 blah. Now, I will just say this and we can move on. I would not put it past Google to lock out content to some degree in the final version of this, because Google does have a lot of vested corporate interest in this stuff. But we don't have evidence that that is what is happening yet.
You know, that's what I would do to bring it around. If I was CEO of Microsoft, is I would do all the fuck you moves. I'd be like, yeah, Windows Phone. If you both have Windows phones, you can literally simply just transfer fucking MP3s from one phone to another.
Yep.
Just boom. Fuck you, music
content
companies.
producers.
I know.
What?
If you run
You gonna
Microsoft,
sue Microsoft?
if you run Microsoft Windows and your friend also runs Microsoft Windows, it's easy as balls just to send files back and forth. Any file you want. We don't even give a shit. In fact, super encrypted too. Oh, and when the government comes and says we want to put backdoors in, I'll say that was the old Ballmer Microsoft. We've taken all the backdoors out. We're even patching all back to XP to remove those backdoors. Fuck you, government. Fuck you.
Here's the problem with the security side. Because
And that I'd advertise the fuck that I'm doing that.
yeah, and I would simultaneously go to the government and say, look, we're going to fucking open ourselves the fuck up and bend over to you because all the people who care about security are going to buy Windows.
Well, I would also be like,
that's the one benefit of open source for security is that some nerd is going to find the back door if there's any back door in open source code.
That's true. No, but it's like if Microsoft does stuff like that, where it's like,
yeah, that's why I said
we're taking
before.
all the DRM out.
Microsoft and Valve. Microsoft should be the one that make the set-top box. Windows on the TV should be the default.
But they couldn't really make it work, right?
Yeah.
They almost had it. I'd go back to that too.
The thing is, I'll
look,
admit,
the Xbox just plays any fucking video in the universe. It's got all the codecs. We keep them all up to date. It's just perfect. It just works. No fancy weird setups. Just any video fucking file. No hacks.
Yeah.
If anyone ever has to hack a Microsoft thing, then that means the CEO of Microsoft didn't do this strategy. The strategy would be, you never need to hack our shit because our developers here made everything so perfect that it's already the way you want. So, super free to watch all the videos and share all the files and do all the things.
So what's interesting is I basically...
Oh, and Xbox Gold would be... there wouldn't even be gold. It would just be everyone has free Xbox Live accounts.
I would sell platinum, though.
Yeah, okay, maybe you could have a platinum for money that does even more crazy shit.
Copper, gold, silver, platinum, ultra platinum.
I don't think so. Just
chromium.
It would be more like Amazon Prime, right? Where it's just Amazon and Amazon Prime. But there wouldn't be any. You would only need platinum if you were like super hardcore. Normal people, they could watch their Netflix and use the Twitters and all that without paying for the platinum.
Anyway, I don't really pay attention to the news on these things because I'm one of those people who just has a real computer running a desktop OS connected to my TV.
Yeah, me too.
But anyway, things of the day. I watched the first season and a half of Breaking Bad. It was pretty good. I like it. Not as good as House of Cards or Adventure Time or any of these other things, but it's pretty good. I kind of stopped watching, and I kind of want to watch the new season just because people are talking about it and it looks good. So here, for you, in case you want to do the same thing and are in a similar boat, is a super spoilers for obvious reasons, really good recap of the first 5 seasons of Breaking Bad.
How long does it take to watch it?
27 minutes.
Well, that show is pretty slow then, isn't it? If there's a lot of filler,
well,
you can watch 5 seasons in 20 minutes.
The show does have a lot of, I wouldn't call it filler, but it's more like there's a lot of
quiet scenes with cicadas chirping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which actually is super. I mean, if you call that.
I like those, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you call that filler and Ava, like, all right.
I'm just saying, I like those.
Imagine the no cicada Ava cut. That would be awful. Wait a minute. I want to make the only
You'd
cicadas
have to watch
cut.
it in slow-mo because, like, what just happened?
I'm going to make
when the cicadas are chirping, that's where you try to figure out what you just saw.
You know what we could do after we finish Geeknights Presents Utena? Geeknights Presents Ava, and then because we're doing it anyway, I could make a supercut of every cicada.
Yeah, you know what? Every time cicadas chirped in Ava, you know what my brain thought? Oh, right. No one can have any babies on all of Earth.
Oh, because the room because
right.
the room
Everyone,
of Gauf is empty.
Yeah. Or, oh, right. Everyone left. There's no one left in this town except like these 10 nerve people, and that's it. Everyone's gone. Or, oh, right. They moved the whole city underground and kept it there. Or, oh, right. That was all I thought every time that. those
Anyway,
cicadas chirping.
Breaking Bad, the first 5 seasons in 27 minutes. Super well done. The only thing I want to point out is that there's a character who there are so many scenes if you watch this in the later seasons where a particular character holds a gun to another character's head and says, "Give me a reason not to fucking shoot you." And the guy's like, "Just hear me out, just hear me out, just hear me out."
That happens over and over again?
Yeah, you know what the moral of this recap is? He should have just fucking shot him. The first time. Anyway,
so thing of the day. There's this dude named Martin Manley, and he wasn't really, he was an very interesting person, and what he did is he killed himself.
Oh, this guy was all over FARC.
Yeah.
And there's also a story because this web provider shut his website down at first.
Yeah, that's right. But
yeah.
The thing is he wasn't really crazy, at least not super crazy, like, or, super depressed or anything like that. I'm sure he wasn't perfect because he killed himself, but, he was relative, he was an intelligent, well-spoken person, and, he killed himself for reasons, his own reasons. And everyone has their own reasons, and he has a right to those reasons. The interesting thing is that before killing himself, he wrote this huge website explaining the hell out of everything. And a lot of people, they explain things when they kill themselves. They leave behind a note or something of that nature. They make a Facebook post or a Twitter or something. But, usually you don't get to see that. It's like if the family has a suicide note, it's like no one sees that, right? So people who haven't collected a suicide note in their lives, or were, lucky enough, such as we are, to not collect a suicide note in their lives, right? Don't really know what's going through some of those people's heads, and a lot of those people are crazy or depressed, so even if you had the note, it wouldn't really make a lot of sense to you. But here it's just really, really interesting. This is, I'm sure there are other cases, but this is the first widely published, case where a guy wrote this huge website, and you can read and really see what he was thinking and, what was going through his head and why he decided to kill himself and whatnot. So
I remember there's one point I was poking around through it, and there was a bit that was like 9/11 conspiracies. I was like, uh-oh. But then I clicked on that part, and he was basically like, yeah, you're all morons.
Yep.
It wasn't a conspiracy. Calm down.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's this is definitely worthwhile reading simply to, look inside the mind of another human being who had nothing really to hide because they were dead, and maybe learn something about yourself from the death of this other person.
I feel like I have a very complicated position on the rights of the dead.
Yeah, that's the website.
Yes, because it was taken down by Yahoo, so this is...
Oh, the guy also donated his organs and stuff.
Yeah, but he even set it up to where police would find his body, so no one would be traumatized, and he set it up to where they'd find it right away.
Yeah, see, just look how not crazy he was.
Yeah,
he thought of it all. He thought all of this out.
Yeah, he put it really down.
It's like he decided long in advance. It's sort of like he wasn't ill, this guy, but it was similar to like Terry Pratchett wants to, because he has Alzheimer's. This guy I don't think had Alzheimer's.
So on one hand, I feel like the dead should have no rights to things that they might have wanted because they're gone. But I also
like you're
feel
dead. Whatever you want, it doesn't matter anymore.
But I also feel like certain kinds of wishes should be maintained, especially if they paid for them in advance, like this website.
Well, I mean, if I pay someone for services, like I sign a contract with someone that says, like, after I die, you will jump up and down 10 times. It's like the contract is still binding. I paid you.
But at least it's binding to the estate.
Yeah, right? Like if I bought a piano, right, and the piano was going to be delivered tomorrow, and I die today, they still got to deliver that fucking piano tomorrow. They can't just be like, oh, he died. We don't have to deliver it now. You got the money, right? You give the money back or you deliver the piano. It was paid for just because the person who paid for it is dead, right? That kind of thing needs to stay. But it's like if I'm dead and I just write in my will that I want someone to do something, it's like they don't have to fucking do that.
And look at how many people
if they don't want to. If they want to, okay.
Important literary works that were not published, where the person who died left instructions to not publish them or tried to hide them, and just published them.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's great. Had that not happened.
Funerals are for the people who are still alive. They're not for the dead people. Right? All that stuff is for the living people. It's not, dead people are dead. You don't do anything for them.
Now, I do believe we in the United States should ban burial.
I also agree, but that's
cemeteries.
It's a separate episode.
It is a separate episode. So, not this weekend, but oh shit, it actually is this weekend. It's time.
P motherfucking A to the X.
You actually said to the X?
That's right.
You said that.
To the X.
You said
Every day hustling.
Okay.
It is time to hustle.
So, we're going to be at the Penny Arcade Expo. It's a convention about gaming and a webcomic called Penny Arcade. It's in Seattle on Friday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
I'm laughing for a different reason that you don't realize.
Oh, fuck. So, we're going to be there. We're going to be presenting on Monday at noon in the Wolfman Theater.
Monday? Wait, PAX is on Monday? Are you shitting me?
Bad games.
Oh, you don't need to come to that if it's bad. There's plenty of good games
Bad
at PAX.
games. Bad games. I'll let you all in on a secret. Yeah, we're going to do a little bit of that angry video game nerd, like, haha, look at this bad game, but it's not what the panel's about.
Our panel is never about what it says it's going to be about. That's
I know.
what we do.
Well,
If you don't know that, you're listening to the show, really?
I point out
Did
beyond...
you just start listening?
Beyond
Have you
Dungeons and
not
Dragons.
watched our panel on YouTube ever?
Beyond Dungeons and Dragons is about exactly what it says it's about.
It's not about Dungeons and Dragons at all.
Yeah, it is. It's about how Dungeons and Dragons is bad.
Yeah, okay, anyway.
But we're also going to be at another event, the Pre-PAX Sky High Tabletop Play Benefiting Food Lifeline event in the Columbia Tower Club.
It's a charity dinner. I'm going to eat dinner on Thursday night in Seattle anyway. Why not have the money I would have spent on dinner at a restaurant go to charity? And side benefit, good gaming tables I don't have to fight over for a whole night of pre-PAX. Usually you have to fight in like the Sheraton lobby for a tiny shit table. This is, along with dinner, I can then play games on these super nice tables in comfort without having to fight for them. Yes, I will gladly pay money for that service. Oh, the money goes to charity, you say. What is bad about this situation?
So
nothing.
We will be VIPs at the event. We will be running and teaching some games for people at the event. So if you go to this thing, we might teach you how to play Agricola or Glory to Rome, and then maybe play a game with you.
Fuck you, Rome.
We might run some Burning Wheel or some Inspectors.
We'll
or some
play
big,
whatever games are going to be played because it's just a game night.
We might run a big action castle for all the
if
people.
someone else plays Netrunner, we'll just play Netrunner all the time. Or at least I will.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do.
I feel like we
these
should
days.
run a big action castle with everyone there.
We'll see what the people are doing there. It's a dinner. People
Yeah.
do what they do.
Well, it's dinner and drinks and hanging out. Now, kids, you got to be 21.
That's a problem.
And also, read
There's
the
a dress
fact,
code also.
You have to dress not like a hobo.
I think it was like jeans and a shirt is like enough.
Well, there's 2 levels. I think we only have to make it to the first level because the club room, there's like 2 levels in the FAQ from the tower itself. And the second tier said, gentlemen must be wearing a jacket.
Okay, I don't think we have to wear a jacket.
I don't think so, but I'll have a jacket with me anyway, just in case.
Does that mean I had to bring a jacket?
I don't know. I bring a jacket anyway. I always bring a jacket to PAX. I bring that awful seersucker that I wear
I only
everywhere.
have one.
Really? I have like 11.
Yeah.
The book club book is Stasiland. You should read it because
I finally just got a copy of it, borrowing. So now
I finished it.
I'll read it on this plane to Seattle, maybe. Ooh,
Yep.
there's a map of Germany, East Berlin, West Berlin. I've seen that map.
You're going to learn a lot about that map.
Huh, Brandenburg Gate. What is that?
Yeah, Alexanderplatz. Yeah, what's Platz?
This reminds me of a James Bond movie that involved a circus and a nuclear bomb. Okay.
Gambling.
Roll them bones.
I don't really gamble anymore.
I gamble almost zero.
There was a
Effectively
time-
zero.
There was a time when Scott and I were in Wildwood, and we went up the state a little bit to Atlantic City. We walked into the roulette table, and we just kept betting on red. And we walked out, each with a couple
I bet on
$100.
a few other things randomly.
I pretty much just bet on red. Once I bet on the 1/3 bet instead of the 1/2 bet. You can bet on like 1/3 of the board. But pretty much for as long as the internet's been going on, people have been trying to gamble over it because local laws often ban gambling.
Yep.
And the internet is very difficult to regulate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm of the opinion if you want to gamble, go ahead. But also, hey, the way gambling is set up basically is just a regressive tax. It takes money away from poor, not smart people and gives it to rich people.
So in the very least, I'm okay with regulation on gambling to ensure that if someone allows gambling, that the gambling is itself fair and what it says it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I run a casino and the slot machines just never pay out, yeah, jail for me.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And this is the thing with internet gambling is that you'll see, by forcing it underground, by making it illegal, how can I trust those places are not totally shady and just cheating me? I can't. So even if I wanted to gamble, which I don't, I can't because I don't trust that shit. But if they allowed it, then I could go to places that were above board and regulated, and I could trust that I wasn't getting screwed. 'Cause
But
think about this. Let's say we're playing video poker, right? Blackjack, you and me.
all right.
You're in your house, I'm in my house, but we're sitting at the same virtual blackjack table, okay? I play some cards, you play some cards. You never really get to see the card that I have face down. It tells you lose, it tells me I lose, but really, it looks like you won on my screen. Right? It's like they don't have to show us the same damn thing.
Well, I think poker is a better example that people want to play online poker with other people, but at the same time, how do you know they're not just bots or not just completely made up?
Yep. And people who do play online poker play like a zillion tables at once, right? And they're doing all this crazy stuff, which is totally unfair.
It's more that those
we can't even stop people from cheating at Counter-Strike. How are we going to stop people from cheating?
Here's the thing.
Online
there's a lot
games?
of things we want to try to just talk about the technology of this because game-wise, the people who play like 10 poker games at the same time are the same sad people who play 10 bingo cards at the same time. They're just trying to
do it for a living so they don't have to get a job.
Yes. Even though you don't make that much money doing that, and also that's really kind of sad. And what are you going to put on your resume? I play video poker online every day. 10 video pokers. I can play 10 video pokers simultaneously. But beyond all that, you were saying the problem with online gambling or gambling in general is that, basically it's a regressive tax on poor people. But if we let it happen online, then we reduce the one benefit that institutionalized gambling has, that you push it into certain sort of syntax areas like Las Vegas, and those are the places, in quotes, people go to do their gambling, get their gamble on, and you can milk the economic benefit more directly and maybe even intervene in the people's lives who are doing it improperly or to their own detriment more easily.
It also actually might help those areas. Like if you hurt the Vegas casinos, maybe Vegas will just be awesome shows and get rid of the casinos or have less of them.
But if gambling happens everywhere, no one's going to Atlantic City.
Yeah, Atlantic City
Except
will
old
just get
people
worse.
who want to buy all-you-can-eat crab legs.
I read a thing today that said, like, in the United States, internet isn't fast or cheap in the U.S., but it was like, there's only like a single-digit percentage of people who can't get internet in the U.S.
I read that 20% of Americans
20% don't, even though they could, right? They could get it, they choose not to. And those people are basically the problem.
Did you see the follow-up that the majority of those people and the least internet
they're
using
old
places?
and poor.
Nope. Former Confederacy.
Also that.
Former Confederacy lines up directly with the states that have the least percent of internet use.
Yep. But the people who are not getting the internet are basically the old, the poor, the uneducated, etc.
So in a way, maybe it would be fine because the people who are sitting in the slot machines all day are not the people who know they can use a computer, and hopefully
wouldn't use a computer even if they could.
And hopefully the old lonely people who do it because they have nothing else to do, by the time our generation gets that old, more of us will have a few old friends left thanks to Facebook, and we'll go live somewhere in person.
But what if having online gambling legal might get the old, uneducated, poor people onto the internet? They might learn something while they're there, the same way that guy who comes to PAX just for League of Legends might learn something while he's there about another game.
Online gambling is mostly illegal.
In the United States.
Yes, so how are so many people doing it anyway?
They just VPN to some other country where it's legal, get a bank account in another country, a credit card from another country, use bitcoins, turn them into some other currency.
Notice how technological measures, this is the beauty of the internet and the beauty of free speech. The fact that the internet is so decentralized means that online gambling sites appeared outside of the US that were perfectly legal where they were, and the U.S. couldn't do fuck all about it.
Yeah, all they can do to you if you start trying to gamble is they'll be like, oh, you're using a U.S. credit card for online gambling? We're just going to shut that down and freeze your bank account and whatever. Because that's in the U.S. That's the part we can mess with.
They have to go over this. They have to go after the legal side routes. They have to Al Capone you to take it down. Because technologically, I have an SSL connection to an IP address. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
I'm using a VPN. A non-103 from that VPN is connecting and playing video poker. Who the hell is it? I don't know. What account is being used to play at that video poker site? It's a British bank account. That could be a Britain person using the VPN and doing that. It could be a Chinese person.
Now,
we have no clue.
At the same time, they still will go after you with legal means. Like, well,
if they know that it's me, how would they know? The only way they can know is when I transfer money from that account to my U.S. account.
Yes, repatriating the money laundering.
There's an easier way to deal with that.
Buy bitcoins with the money from the account, transfer them to another account, and then transfer them to cash.
Well, that could work, yes. But another way to do it would be to just don't transfer it to the U.S., go to Britain on holiday, and then, use the money for your vacation.
That's not a bad idea, but then again, Britain's not the best example because they might have.
They have tons of gambling
US.
there, just like Australia.
Yep. God, Australia.
I watched like some illegal, streams of sports because basically some guy in the UK pays a bunch of money to get a dish, so he gets the football game and then he streams the football game back to people in the US over the internets. And the commercials during like American football in Britain are all like, bet on games, holy shit. And it's basically you can do all the stuff that you could bet on at that footy game from your computer at home.
But anyway, technologically, online gambling has to do the same things that people who want to share child porn or hide information transfer or spy have to do. You have to make it to where people can use the sites and make financial transactions over them, but simultaneously not be easily identifiable by outside people like the government.
Well, that Silk Road site that just sells drugs and sends them by UPS, but you can only pay them in bitcoins?
Yep.
Why don't we just open up a casino, and you can only get to it if you're on tour? Why don't we set up a site that is just a casino that's on tour, and you can only gamble in bitcoins?
It's not a bad idea. I was going to say in general that
the problem is we need enough bitcoins to be the house.
Yeah. Also, we'd have to run it somewhere where none of this is illegal.
Well, no, no one would know where it is, just like no one knows where the Silk Road is.
Yeah, but it's probably not in the United States.
Almost definitely not.
Exactly, that's the point. We couldn't build it here. Also, I'll bet the NSA
buy servers somewhere else.
I'll bet the NSA knows exactly where it is.
I don't know about that
because Tor is pretty easy to attack.
Well, that's because there were some there were some basically no good people on Tor.
No, there's the problem.
Nodes. They got rid of the bad nodes.
All discussions like this, and this is why we keep bringing it up, come down to circle of trust.
Yep.
No matter how great the encryption in the world you use, if you use Google's SSL certificate, Google can decrypt everything you're sending them.
Right, that's the whole point, is I want to communicate with Google and Google only. Google has my Gmail, I have my Gmail, and no one else. That's the goal, right? But if I can't trust Google can just read my Gmail and send it to anyone they want.
If I want to communicate with just Scott and not Google, we have to use our own encryption scheme that's just between us, and I have to trust that Scott won't just take all my communication and share it with a bunch of other people.
I could do something like, let's say I have a file that has secrets in it, so I encrypt it, but I store it on my Amazon bucket. Well, Amazon has it, but it's encrypted. They're not going to break that.
Yep, that's fine.
But I'm basically trusting me and only me, and I can't send that information to anybody. And then let's say I share it with Rim, so Rim can decrypt it.
I could also put it on Pirate Bay.
And then Rim, as soon as he decrypts it, no one else has it. I was successfully sent a secret message to Rim, but then he just posted it on his Twitter and his Tumblr, and everyone saw it. And it's like, well, fuck you, Rim. It's the same thing with the gambling, right? You have to trust the casino isn't cheating. You have to trust the people you're playing with aren't cheating. You have to trust there's no one in between you and the casino taking your monies or fucking up with your game across that internet. There's so many things you have to trust to believe in the online gambling itself is sound technologically, right? Even if it was legit and regulated by the government, you'd still have to trust. Counter-Strike, people still cheat at it.
Yep.
Even with Valve, with their VAC.
Or people don't cheat and get accused of cheating, like me.
Yeah.
I got kicked and banned from a server not that long ago.
Yeah, and if people online gambled like crazy, it's like someone would hit jackpots pretty, it's like, the percentage of people hitting jackpots would be about the same, but the absolute number would go way up.
It kind of delves into non-Monday territory, but I suspect that if you did a huge study of people who gamble online, there's two distinct classes. There are the people who gamble because it's fun to gamble with friends, maybe for money, like they're doing it for money or whatever, but they're doing it not to make a living. They're doing it because it's fun. Mm-hmm. And then there's the much bigger group of people who are doing it to make money or because they think it's easy money.
Yep.
And the latter...
I know a lot of people, especially like college-age dudes, who basically try to do like online poker as their job. They thought they were so good at it or whatever.
Yep, because those sites, I mean, part of the reason they do it is that you start to trust the sites because they do pay out. They do pay out, but they don't pay out forever. They don't pay out all the time. In fact, because they're not regulated, they could pay out a lot early on and then not pay out anymore. And as long as it takes you longer to figure out it's not paying out anymore than the time it took you to build up the money you'd gotten, it's a net profit for them.
Yep.
And it costs them almost nothing to do because the security stuff's pretty easy. There's another factor with the circle of trust. If I want to gamble online, I have to trust the fuck out of that casino. Casino doesn't have to trust me at all. It's got my money, it could just disappear.
Yeah.
So it's a one-sided arrangement. Only one party is hurt by a lack of trust or a failure to uphold trust. As soon as you're communicating with someone where the other party will be harmed if you break the trust, but you are not harmed if they break the trust, it's very similar to the
You're
game
basically
theory.
relying on them to be nice.
Yep, it's the
like,
same
please
game
be
theory
nice
as the
and
Cold
don't
War.
fuck me.
I mean, if I have nukes and you don't, you just have to trust me to not use
I mean,
nukes.
think about it. I go into a casino. I give them $100 to give me $100 in chips. Right? Those chips are only worth anything because basically, effectively, as a libertarian would say, the federal government has a gun to the casino's head that forces them to give me $100 if I give them the chips. Otherwise, the casino would just sell chips and be like, man, we made a fortune selling chips. We're closed.
Yep, one day you just stop cashing in chips and see how long it takes people to figure it out.
Yep.
And because it's a libertarian world, you buy up all the newspapers first, so the newspapers keep running stories about huge payouts. That's a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Let's start voting Republican.
Sure.
Anyway, but I'm much more interested in the gambling, the first type of gambling, like salty bet with real dollars. That would be kind of fun.
Problem with Salty Bet is that it's not. I wanted to use it as a thing of the day, but I guess we're talking about it now, right?
We'll talk about it another time.
You know, casino games that you see in real casinos or sports are things that have uncertainties, or right, where the odds are set, right? Salty Bet, it's like, well, you can't really, get like a firm. The casino, the house wouldn't always win.
Well, that's why there's no house. The house takes a rake or a cut. It's just like...
Oh, like poker? Yeah.
Yeah, like poker. That's the interesting kind of gambling, where you set up a system where people are gambling with other people. You just take a cut. Now, you're the broker of trust. Security-wise, it's such an elegant analogy for how to do secure networks. If you do a game like Texas Hold'em and you want to be the casino... You now have a vested interest in making sure that all the people playing trust you, because if people stop trusting you, your business disappears. Your cut is only from the fact that people trust you. So now everyone has an incentive to validate your trust or their trust of you, and you have an incentive to maintain that trust, and then everybody gets what they want, except the people who lose at poker. But I guess in a way they get what they want.
Yeah, we could set up a thing where it's like, it's Counter-Strike, and you just bet on actual Counter-Strike games, and we don't take any of the money. You're betting against other people betting on the same Counter-Strike game, and the money goes to the winner, and we just take a cut for our services.
Now, most gambling in the sad loser sense tends to use point spreads and different mechanisms to pretty much always make the odds even, because that's what's best for the house. It's not good for casinos or bookies to do the kind of betting that's more fun of who's going to win, the Oakland Raiders or the Detroit Lions.
Because sometimes that's if you look at Salty Bet, you can see a lot of times it's just a fucking foregone conclusion. It's like, yeah, waifu versus DBZ. Waifu's gonna win.
But that's the kind of betting that among friends is a lot more fun. You're not going to win that game with El Grande. Oh, fuck yes, I am. I'll bet on myself.
Because you're betting on skill, you're not betting on chance.
Exactly. That's more fun kind of betting.
Right? But here's the thing with computers, right? With skill, it's sort of known. It's like you can know what people's skills are, or you can look up the skill, right? When you bet on... Oh.
What you doing there with your boom?
I don't know. Weird stuff just happened. And it's like you think about horse betting, right? It's like They know which horse is better because they read like a horsey newspaper, maybe.
You know which horse is better because the odds are so meticulously done.
Yes, but if you go on the internet, to bet on something of skill, you can look up so much information on the internet. You know exactly what the fuck's going to happen, right? There's no secrets. And if you bet on something of chance, well, now we've got issues because, in the real world, the gambling, you got a roulette wheel, right? No one knows where that ball's fucking going, right? But with a computer, it's like, well, you got a hardware random number generator? Is it a block of cesium? What do you have, right? Do you have a block of cesium for every virtual roulette table? What are you using, right? How can I can totally fuck with that. Right?
Now,
the actual, even if your casino was legit, the integrity of the game itself is under question because it is in software.
But at least if it's regulated and tested, then the incentive is entirely on the house to maintain its integrity and odds, because if it doesn't, people are going to win more often.
And that could be me.
That could be you.
The same. It's.
But that's the psychology.
But that's
It could
happened
be
in the
me is
real
why
world
those
too. Like
douchebags
people
in college keep trying to play online poker. They feel like I can game the system and win.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's happened. Counting cards and blackjack, same thing. We'll just see another thing like that when people are, counting and figuring out random number generators.
But casinos love people who try to count cards because those people usually fuck up and lose more money than they win.
Right, but what if a computer does it for you? All you gotta do is,
Well,
casino
notice how some
script
casinos
kiddies
have single shoe blackjack where there's just one deck of cards, and they act like, oh, look, if you want to count cards, or people think, oh, it's one deck.
If you actually count cards, they kick you out, and if you fail, they go,
no. The tables that have single card or single deck or single shoe or whatever they're going to call it usually have slight other changes to the rules related to blackjacks to where the payouts are actually less even if you do count cards. But I digress. Really, it's just that online gambling is in every sense a perfect example of how trust networks and encryption and security and all these things in other areas of computing apply to the real world. It's a real world example of these things that's really easy for people to understand and analyze.
And if you solve those problems, right, those solutions will be very applicable to other things, right? And they'll be very worthwhile in, finance or any other kind of computer security, networking areas.
The solution that verifiably lets me and Scott and all our friends bet on things in a way where we can't renege and we can't cheat can be used to do allocations in the stock market just as easily, or even
which is why anyone who could do that is just doing the stock market to begin with.
Why do you think I work for the stock market?
It's where most of the money is, because that's where the bank. It's like you say the banks are where the money is.
There's no money in the bank.
It's like my favorite joke is always like, oh, you should work for the bank. That's where the money is. It's like, well, no, actually, the banks just put all their money in the stock market.
Scott, you should work for Grant's tomb.
Yeah, that's where Grant is.
All the grants.
All the grants. I don't need any grants though. But if I did,
I will take as many grants as you've got.
I got 2. One and his wife. That's the 2 I got.
All right, I think we're done. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geeknights is not 1, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.